Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the noon news from Montana's news leader.
Good afternoon. We're glad you could join us to end your week. I'm Aja Goare. International weapons experts are planning to investigate the suspected chemical attack against civilians in Syria. But it remains unclear if their probe will uncover who is responsible for the attack that killed more than 40 people. CBS's Lou Young reports.
U.S. officials say blood samples from victims of the Syrian attack provided by hospital workers show the presence of chemicals, but two questions remain. What kind of chemicals and who is responsible?
We're looking very seriously, very closely at that whole situation.
After promising to retaliate with missiles, nice and new and smart, President Trump has been meeting with his top advisors to formulate an actual plan. Russia is a close ally of Syria and has warned the U.S. not to attack.
We're trying to stop the murder of innocent people, but on a strategic level, it's how do we keep this from escalating out of control, if you get my drift on that.
Russia called for an emergency Security Council meeting here at the UN today. It called the escalating situation, quote, very dangerous.
It is Russia alone that has stopped at nothing to defend the Syrian regime's multiple uses of chemical weapons.
In Moscow, Russia's foreign minister claims the suspected chemical attack was staged with the help of an unspecified foreign intelligence agency. But France says it has proof Bashar al-Assad's government is responsible, and Britain says it's highly likely Syria did it. A team of international chemical weapons experts begins work tomorrow trying to figure out who was behind the attack. Lou Young, CBS News, the United Nations.
Over the past 6 months, U.S. intelligence can confirm 4 other chemical attacks were carried out by the regime, but none triggered a military response. Here in Montana, the man accused of gunning down his estranged wife and shooting another woman in Belgrade, now accused of trying to get his son to take the blame. 47-year-old Joseph DeWiSE is charged with deliberate homicide for the February murder of Lauren DeWiSE. According to newly filed charging documents, DeWiSE called his daughter from jail and said her 15-year-old brother must admit to the murder. DeWiSE was heard telling his daughter that if her brother took responsibility, he could be released from prison by age 21. DeWiSE is also charged with attempting to kill another woman at the home. He's being held on a $1 million bond. A Butte woman now faces criminal charges for allegedly running over and killing a man in December. 55-year-old Crystal Williamson faces 1 count of negligent homicide for the death of 76-year-old Dan Lean. The victim was taking a walk when he was struck by a vehicle. Prosecutors say Williamson was the driver and she did not have her headlights on. Lean coached basketball and football and taught math at Butte High for 30 years before retiring in the 90s. Well, every room in a Missoula YMCA learning center must now be decontaminated after a daycare worker apparently blew methamphetamine smoke through the air vents. 30-year-old Autumn Hines now charged with 3 felonies related to contaminating the facility with toxic smoke. Police found a hard case that contained a glass pipe with what appeared to be meth residue. They also found a plastic tube containing meth crystals. Further tests revealed widespread contamination at the daycare.
The bathroom was then tested. The bathroom was positive for methamphetamine, and so was the air vent in the bathroom, which led the environmental tester and detectives to believe that she had been smoking methamphetamine and exhaling into the vent system to try and avoid detection. Unfortunately, what that did is it spread the methamphetamine throughout the whole building. Every room in the facility has now tested positive for methamphetamine. All of the children appear to have been exposed. Hopefully, none of them will test positive.
And Hines allegedly admitted she has a drug addiction. The daycare director says Hines has been a full-time employee for 3 years and has worked with infants. Authorities in northeast Montana now believe the baby and her non-custodial mother who took her are traveling by train. 9-month-old AUBRYELLA Cordova was last seen in Fraser April 6th when BIA Social Services gained custody of the baby. Authorities believe the mother, 28-year-old Edna Jones, took the girl to Minnesota by Amtrak. Both Jones and the baby have tested positive for drugs. Anyone with information on their location is asked to contact law enforcement. Gallatin County health officials say a Montana State University student diagnosed with mumps is at the moment an isolated infection. No other cases of the viral infection had been detected as of Thursday. Health officials, though, are working to limit the risk of additional cases. We're told the risks of disease transmission are reduced because the person diagnosed with mumps lives off campus and has a limited number of close contacts. Now, while mumps do pose serious but rare potential health impacts, the immunizations that many people received as children should prevent infection. We turn now to the weather scene with Brett McCrummon, and snow in some places of the state and others, they avoided it.
Yep, in some areas it's starting to dissipate right now. We're focusing mainly on eastern Montana right now from Billings towards the east as far as snowfall goes. Let's go ahead and take a look at some areas around the state. First off, in Missoula, starting to get a few breaks in the clouds. They're at 42 degrees with west winds right now at 15 miles an hour. As we head over to Butte, they're at 36 degrees under partly sunny skies, and also as we take a look at Great Falls, 33 degrees. There again, they're looking at partly cloudy skies, southwest winds at 10. And here in the Billings area, we still have some light snow falling. It's currently 35 degrees and our winds are out of the north. We'll have your complete forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Brett. We'll check back in. The Environmental Protection Agency was on hand in Butte to discuss cleanup of the Superfund site. But residents also want to know the health impacts of exposure to the dangerous chemicals. MTN's John Amy has more on a new health study.
The Environmental Protection Agency recently made the cleanup of mine contamination in Butte a priority. Part of that includes studying how contamination affects human health.
Years of mining contributed to dust in the older homes in the Butte Priority Soils Operable Unit.
The EPA and health officials responded with an abatement program to systematically remove harmful elements from homes and soils.
We go into homes and clean out attic dust, and we go into yards and sample soil. And so if we find lead mostly, but arsenic or mercury, we'll go up to the point where we remove the soil from the yard and replace it with new sod.
The EPA is in the process of a new health study that will be released next summer to monitor the community's health. The first study results from 5 years ago showed the process appears to be working.
And that study concluded that the blood lead levels of children living in the Butte Priority Soils Operable Unit had declined to the point that they were equivalent to the blood lead levels of children on the flats.
Health officials point out that there are other factors, including economic and the social stigma of living in a Superfund site that could lead to other health complications.
Our children are affected by being labeled as children of a dirty water, quote unquote, town. Does that have a psychological impact? And the whole economic impact. Do people have good paying jobs, or are we missing out because of our Superfund stigma? Are we affected in ways that could ultimately affect our health?
Part of that study will include a committee dedicated to environmental justice to see how these factors play in human health. In Butte, John Amy, MTN News.
Thank you, John. And before we get to break, we have some breaking news for you. Former Montana Congressman John Melcher has died. He died at the age of 93. His daughter confirmed with the New York Times that he passed away Thursday at his home in Missoula. Melcher, if you recall, was 45 when he went to Washington in 1969. He was known for embracing both economic development and environmental protections for our state. Again, John Melcher has died at the age of 93. Still ahead on the noon news, fire season starts early in Oklahoma, where people are evacuating their homes. We'll take you there. But first, Brett has our weather forecast. Stay with us.
You're watching MTN News with Aja Goare, Storm Tracker weather with Ed McIntosh, and farm and ranch news from the Northern Egg Network. This is the Noon News on Q2, Montana's news leader.